Most people, they think of old mining towns as just, quiet little places that are frozen in time, okay? The wooden sidewalks, the brick buildings, a museum or two. But if you step back into the 1890s in Victor, Colorado, okay, you are stepping into one of the wildest gold boom towns in all of American history. It's a place where, fortunes were made underground, okay? Gunfights, they happened in dance halls. Entire city blocks just burned to the ground. And the party just kept going anyways. Victor sat high in the mountains, right above Cripple Creek, in what became the richest gold district that Colorado has ever seen. And when the gold was discovered, in the early 1890s, the town didn't just grow slowly. It just exploded. And within just a few years, you had thousands of people just flooding into the district, right? You had the miners, the speculators, the gamblers, outlaws, prostitutes, investors just chasing gold. And you had men also who had no intention of digging at all, because wherever gold appears in the American West, right, so does everything that follows it, okay? And Victor, it quickly became this full-blown boomtown, right? The dance halls, the saloons, you had theaters, gambling rooms, red light houses everywhere. I mean, the streets, they were packed day and night with miners coming off shift from the surrounding mines. And, men with pockets full of gold dust. And they all had the urge to just spend it fast. Because, mining towns, they ran on a simple understanding, okay? And that is that you might strike it rich tomorrow, okay? Or you might die in a shaft collapse before sunrise. So a lot of the men, they chose to live like there was just no tomorrow. And sometimes, tomorrow, it didn't actually come. Now, one of the most famous kinds of places in these boom towns, okay, it was the dance hall, right? It was half saloon, half theater. You had music playing, women are dancing, and miners are drinking, right? The cards are hitting the tables, and money is just moving around really fast. So sometimes, right, you had guns just coming out. And one night in the district, a fight broke out inside a dance hall that had been running late into the evening, right? The music, it was playing, the room was just absolutely packed, and you had miners and gamblers all crowded around tables. And then you had the women who were out there working the floor. And then suddenly, the lights went out. No one knows exactly how, because you got to remember, Victor had power at this time. It was one of the first places to have power in Colorado, but maybe something got knocked out of place, right? Maybe someone turned the lights out on purpose. But in that darkness, guns started firing. Panic just exploded inside the room. Shots just cracking out in the dark. Men diving under tables, right? Women just screaming. And when the lamps were finally turned back on, there were bodies on the floor, okay? Dead men just dragged out onto the street. And according to some of the accounts, the music just started right up again not long after, because that was just the reality of boomtown life. Violence, you guys, it wasn't unusual, okay? It was actually expected. And here's another, we had another notorious shooting in the district that actually happened inside a place called the Ironclad Dance Hall. Okay, there was a gunman, his name was Charles Hudspeth, and he walked into the hall and he pulled his revolver during an argument. But when the shooting started, the man that he actually intended to kill wasn't the one who died. Instead, Charles's bullets, they struck the piano player. His name was Reuben Miller. And Reuben was killed while he was sitting at his instrument, playing music for the crowd. That killing shocked the town. And for a short time after that shooting happened, the local officials in Victor, they even tried to ban firearms in the dance halls. But in a gold boomtown full of armed miners, you guys, that rule didn't last very long. And if the violence wasn't enough, right, Victor had another enemy, and that's fire. Mining towns were extremely vulnerable to it, right? Most of the buildings, they were wood, and the streets were extremely tight, and every building was lit with lamps and heated with stoves, and one careless mistake could destroy an entire town. And, well, that's exactly what happened. One of the early fires that ripped through Victor, right, reportedly started in a red lighthouse. One of the, and this is according to local accounts, there was a prostitute who had been washing her clothes in kerosene to remove any stains. And that was actually a really common practice, was to wash with kerosene. And she was smoking while she worked. And at some point, the fumes ignited and the fire spread fast. In a matter of hours, flames raced through the tightly packed buildings, and whole blocks just burned down. The downtown section of Victor burned completely down. You had smoke rolling through the mountain valley while people ran through the streets trying to, save what they could. Boomtowns, they burned like tinderboxes, and Victor was no exception to this. But, here's the strange part about gold towns, right? They don't stay down longer, especially if the gold is good. Even after fires, even after gunfights, or even after, half the town just burns into ashes because, guys, the gold was still there. And mines like, the Independence or the Portland mines, and just dozens of others surrounding Victor, they were producing enormous amounts of gold. I mean, the Cripple Creek District, would eventually produce over, you guys get this, 20 million ounces of gold. That is one of the richest gold strikes in all of American history. It's still being mined today. Battle Mountain is being eaten away. So what did the town do? They rebuilt. New buildings rose, and they used brick. They built it all out of brick. The dance halls reopened, and the gambling tables, well, they came back. And so the wildlife of the gold district, it just kept rolling forward. Now today, Victor looks quiet. I lived there for quite a while. It's just a small, historic town sitting high above the Cripple Creek District. But if you walk those streets and you spend some time, you're walking through the remains of one of the most explosive gold boom towns Colorado ever saw. I could just do a whole series on Victor, you guys. It's a place where men, they chased those fortunes underground, and there was money there. It's places where dance halls could just turn deadly in seconds, and where even when the town burned, the gold just kept pulling people back. Well, if you guys enjoy stories like this, wild mining towns, right? Lost gold districts, and just the raw history of the Rocky Mountain Gold Rush. Well, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And also don't forget to hit that like button, okay? Guys, that helps more people find these stories. And also turn on notifications. That way you don't, miss the next episode that I drop. And if you've ever explored Victor or Cripple Creek, okay, if you've been in that district and walked around and looked at it, hey, drop your story in the comments below, because some of the best gold rush history, it's still hiding in these mountains. So get out there, go explore, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.